Thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective, the podcast with subject matter experts in marketing. Home services is a roughly $400 billion industry that is flooded with some large players in each vertical and then mom and pop shops across the country. And whether it's flooring or solar or plumbing or landscaping or moving or some other service, there's an almost certain chance that if you've owned a home, it's likely that you've utilized a large digital marketplace like Home Expert, Home Advisor, Thumbtack, Porch, or some other. Jason Ashman is a vice president at HomeExpert.com and a subject matter expert in the home services industry. And on this episode, we'll discuss strategies for how to best understand this massive industry, as well as succeed in marketing within it. So let's tune in to a home expert and a shark expert on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Jason, thank you so much for joining us on A Shark's Perspective today. I wish you would tell us and the audience a little bit about your background, your career, and your history, and what got you to HomeExpert.com.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here. So I guess I'll just jump right in. My first job out of college, I went straight into cold call sales, and I was actually doing a print sale, and then that evolved into more of an integrated digital sale, and it was straight out of the movie like Boiler Room, or maybe one of the more recent films, the remake of Wolf of Wall Street, and it just was not for me. It taught me a few quick things. One is that there's a very big difference between sales and partnerships. Two, nothing is better than a hot lead, obviously. And three, it really wasn't what I wanted to do. And from that, it afforded me the opportunity to rethink and restructure, re-strategize my career growth. And from there, I took more of an approach to long picture consultative growth for my companies, and whether that's working on a large scale partnership or figuring out a new payments platform to roll out with the company, and that's just kind of where I put myself into the next phase of my career. This was actually out in New York. I moved back to Chicago about 6, 7 years ago. Went inside a small VC inside one of their incubator startup companies. And from there, I went to another large startup in Chicago called Raise Marketplace. And then for the last 3 years or so, I was at a Home Advisor subsidiary called CraftJack in Chicago with an office in Evanston.
So what was it like to work with Vin Diesel and Giovanni Ribisi? So, no, just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, so let's dive in then and talk a little bit about the home services industry, and especially about performance marketing within there. But talk a little bit about how the industry has evolved, especially from a lead gen standpoint, and what kind of things. I mean, obviously, when you've got the pedigree of working with a Home Advisor and CraftJack and those kind of companies, and Home Expert, it gives you a good base of knowledge. But what are you seeing in the industry as a whole?
Yeah, it's actually kind of neat. I think so. The industry is definitely changing and evolving and getting a lot more press and eyeballs on it. When I was going to conferences, 4 years ago, whatever it was, 5 years ago, there was very little focus on like home services. There was focus on mortgage and financial and legal. This is all obviously in relation to lead gen for the most part. But in the last 2 years or so, it seemed to be exploded. I've been asked to speak actually on a few panels and sessions at some of these various conferences, just talking a bit more about the ins and outs of lead gen and home services. And I think obviously with the most recent news, Home Advisor acquiring Angie's List for $500 million last year, it's really shaking things up quite a bit. There's a few other big players in the industry like Thumbtack. They're trying to make it a bit more conversational between the pro and the homeowner, and guys like Porch who are also giving you predetermined pricing if you book online with them. So the overall like marketplace, Angie's List, Home Advisor, right? They've been around for about 20 some odd years, and it's been this static way to get in touch with these home services professionals, these local experts. And I believe that we're finally getting in a better concept, a better idea of how this ultimately should work. It shouldn't take 18 clicks to only get to a screen which says this person's going to contact you, right? It should be, if you Google, I have a leaky faucet, like it should be one and done. Like, here's my information. I trust you guys. You guys are reputable, obviously. Meaning us or Home Advisor or Home Expert or CraftJack or Thumbtack, any company, right? You should be able to get to that website, understand who they are, understand what they're offering, and you should have enough confidence that they're going to give you a good user experience. And then also from the pro side of things, right? It has to be seamless for them as well, and that's arguably more important than just the consumer homeowner side. It's a really painful process for some of these guys. Some of the larger guys have more structure set up and it's been more organized, but there's a large portion of these home services providers out there that are small shops that have 3-man teams or 10-man teams, or even they're a sole proprietor, right? And so having this clunky software or all these bells and whistles doesn't really seem to always work for them. It's beautiful to look at and fun to play with, but not always the most efficient way. Does that kind of give you a good idea of
Yeah, it
you
does,
know
and I think the thing that you're saying that resonates across, and it applies to every industry and every vertical, is it all comes down to customer journey and that customer experience.
yes,
So,
yes,
I mean, that couldn't be more true. But yeah, there are a ton of sites. You don't want to confuse buyers when they go through the process. I mean, I've always been one of these people that uses the phrase in sales: a confused buyer always says no. And if where a lot of the bigger brands in this industry survive and thrive is because they've given people a good customer journey, good customer experience to go through the path to keep them from being confused, just to fix a leaky faucet. To your point, so when you see how Home Expert is marketed, and you see the Home Advisors and Craft Jacks and Thumbtacks, and to your point earlier about being a partner, how does that differ? Kind of elaborate a little bit about that, about how you set up those types of marketing partnerships that would be different in the home services industry.
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess to talk a little bit about my company, which I don't always like doing, but there's a few things which really set us apart, which a lot of our partners find valuable. The first thing is that we were actually able to establish an exclusive partnership with the industry leader in moving. So moving, people looking to move homes or apartments, whatever it is, they're connecting about 2 million plus people a year with moving companies, and so that's a substantial amount of people. And what we noticed and we felt was that if you can help someone at this pivotal moment in their life, ideally moving into a new home, that's very impactful, right? And you can establish that relationship then and there, give them value. These people are going to be grateful for you. You're going to have that trust. They're going to have that, that recognition of your name, and they're going to come back to you. And so we're getting a lot of just organic, natural comebackers, what we like to call them over here, to our site, asking us, hey, could you refer a local landscaper? Could you refer, a local roofer? Hey, you helped me move to the middle of Iowa. Do you have any painters that could paint my house for me? So stuff like that. So that is something which is a key differentiator about us. That's different about the other guys. And then another thing also, because we are newer and younger and want to make this a bit more of a quality process, more efficient, and make sure both parties, right, the businesses and the homeowners are winning, that we take a more of a quality centric approach to things. So we run a homeowner's information through hundreds of data points, thousands of data points when they submit their information. So, for example, if I were to come through one of our funnels, I would put my name and phone number, my address, all that stuff. It would yield me back a high percentage score. Only then would we pass you along to one of our, verified preferred partners. But if my wife were to put her name and information, phone number, address onto one of our sites, it would raise a flag because she's not the registered name on our, our phone, on our phone account or our house. So at that point, we jump in and send this person uh, basically a two-step verification code. Same way if you log into, let's say, Chase bank account from a different IP address or from a different location, it'll kind of raise a flag, hey, making sure this is actually you. And only after does my wife or this person who receives information confirm that confirmation code, and it's on that site waiting for them to enter the confirmation code, do we then pass it along to a verified partner. And the reason why we're able to do this is because we're not really answering to stakeholders and investors right now, right? We created this company, this organization, because we really understand the plight and the dilemma of both the service pro and the homeowner. There are so many bad apples out here that one bad name really ruins and damages the reputation for the entire industry. And so we got to fix that some way.
Let me switch gears a little bit. Then, how do you guys see your space emerging, condensing? You've got Amazon's got such a heavy footprint and is moving rapidly into the space. Where do you see things shaking up in that industry?
Well, I mean, so it's specifically about Amazon, right? Amazon tried getting this like a while ago, and don't get me wrong, you definitely should fear Amazon. Jeff Bezos is a wizard, and he'll do whatever he wants and win whenever he wants. But he'll also be able to cut his losses when he sees it's not working. So their product and their offering is slightly different than the standard, let's say, Angie's List for home services. I actually read an article recently um, that cited Chris Carroll. He's the CEO of Angie's Home Services, discussing, uh, you know, discussing the whole Amazon rollout into getting into competing with Home Advisor and Angie's List, right? And the key difference is, and this is also something really hard to put like your thumb on. It's because it's a bit soft, I guess I would say, is making sure you have the right people at the business, right? Making sure you have that right touch, making sure you have the right consumer experience, and making sure you have the people who are going to be on the phone dealing with these service pros to helping them along the way. Getting them enrolled, getting them to sign up, making sure that they understand how this works, because it's not just one and done, right? It's not a sale, right? It's a process of things, right? You get a lead. How does it work? How does it operate, right? And the question is Amazon or even Google for that matter, because they're kind of getting in that space, do they really want to play in that field where they got to staff up, 500 to 1,000 just, account managers or sales reps, or whatever you want to call them, to making sure that these service providers that are working with them understand this process? The amounts of times that I've walked into our account manager room or our sales room and overheard calls of them actually like giving them like sales training like 101. And this is something that Home Expert does. We also offer this to a lot of our partners that come on board. We'll go out to franchise locations or at a conference, sit them down for like an hour, give them a walkthrough, a session, some kind of like insider tips, sales 101. Yeah, you got to call the guy right away, send a follow up email, send a text message, wait 24 hours, just the basics of it, not rocket science. But some of these guys don't really know it, and that's okay, because that's kind of what we're here for, right? A lot of these guys who get into becoming a painter or a handyman got into their father's business or their uncle's business, and they started at the bottom. Now they worked their way up, but they had no formalized training in terms of how to operate a business, how to respond to leads, even showing up on time and being like presentable, right? These are larger, overarching like concepts that does Amazon or Google, right? Do they really want to engage in that and help out with that? Because that's where a tremendous value is seen by these service pros, right? They really value those conversations. They really like those conversations. Maybe not always have the time for it, but they do appreciate it.
Let's talk then a little bit about put your keep your marketing hat on and talk about some of the things to take advantage of in the home services space, specifically with lead generation. And how can a company come to you and your company and look at ways to increase lead generation opportunities?
Yeah, listen, that's a that's kind of a hard question, right? Because and it almost hurts me to say it, but as a small company, right? If you have even in small meaning like not small in size or numbers, but like a revenue, but like it's all relative, right? Because you're competing with the Googles and the Amazons and the Thumbtacks and the Porches and the Home Advisors and then the Sherwin Williams and the Pella Windows, on and on and on and on, right? Who have these large marketing budgets and these smart people who their only job is to figure out marketing or Google or Bing or Facebook or Yahoo or email, right? All that stuff. That is their sole job. Their job isn't to be a craftsman and and build a new kitchen or build new cabinets or paint your whole house, right? So what I see is that take advantage of these people's knowledge and insight, right? Take advantage of their ability to generate high quality traffic for you, high quality leads, high quality phone calls, whatever it is, right? By no means is that going to disrupt your business, right? All these companies right now that are out there like bidding on these terms and optimizing their profile pages or whatever it is, are doing it for the benefit of the service pro. This is what I firmly believe, right? And now I think you should obviously diversify a little bit. You should do some of your own. You should work with multiple providers, right? See which one really works for you, and then funnel more of your funds and dollars and put more eggs in that basket. But these guys are built to do this. These guys are in this industry and have been here for a while because they have this knowledge, deep knowledge of how this works and how this operates. And if you're going to create a company, if you're going to be a painting company, or you're a carpenter and you have fantastic craftsmanship and you build beautiful cabinets, I wouldn't expect you to know how to build out a Google algorithm to make sure that you're in the top four slots on for SEM, let's say, or you're ranking number two on Google's SEO pages, right? That's just not your forte, and that's okay, right? I'm not good at a lot of things, and I'm okay with that. And things that I'm not good at, I find someone that is good at it, or I work with someone or work with a partner that's better at that, right? And that's what I see. Like, there's a real advantage of working with these quality providers, working with these providers and lead providers. Again, you have to be a bit cautious of that because there's some of these fly by night companies who try and swoop in there and try and woo you, and sometimes they have a very bad experience. And that one rotten apple ruins it for the rest of us who are doing quality work and putting the businesses that work with us first.
What other challenges do you see in the industry as far as from a marketing perspective in lead gen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think the obvious challenge, and everyone deals with this: Home Advisor, Porch, Thumbtack, Angie's List, Home Expert, right? We all deal with this. Is that it's a marketplace model, right? So there's a supply and demand dilemma, right? And it's sometimes it's kind of inverse. So in the summer months, for example, a lot of people at this during the summer months, like, oh yeah, I'll put on a new sign, or I'll put on a new deck, right? It's nice out. You're doing more active home services. At that same time, though, a lot of the providers that do work with us and partners that do work with us are they're full. Their calendars are full. Like, hey, I'm on a job site every single day for the next 24 days. Like, I can't take on any more leads right now. And being like in business, a businessman, like, well, just go hire like a sales rep or someone like that, an office manager, whoever it is, to go farm these leads for you, and then you'll get more business, on day 31 and 32, and so on and so forth, right? So that marketplace model, like, you got to have always have that supply and demand fit, because if that's unbalanced, it's going to be a bad experience for both sides. If you have too many leads coming in and not enough providers, all these homeowners are now getting this horrible experience because you're promising them a qualified pro, right? And now they're getting nothing, right? So how does that work? How do you deal with that? That's one dilemma we have to figure out and solve. The other dilemma is the opposite side of it, is when you're not getting enough volume, not getting enough leads, and not getting enough interest, because you're getting these guys on board who say they want more jobs. I want to win more jobs. I want to do more work. Please provide me more work, right? And so it's balancing that. It's a fine line. And so what we look to at over here at Home Extra, we look for larger scale partners, right? Of course, don't get me wrong. If you're a qualified painter or roofer and have good reviews, and you have good background, yeah, of course. But we're not looking to bring on, and some of these guys do this, not looking to bring on kid who just graduated high school, has bought a paintbrush and a bucket from Home Depot. That's going to do no one any good, right? You're not going to know how to paint. You're gonna have a bad time. You're not going to know how to get back in touch with these leads or these phone calls. You're not going to have a good formalized sales process. These homeowners are going to have a bad experience with you. You're going to do a bad job, right? So by partnering up with these larger organizations, and really just making sure we're on the same wavelength, same page, that this is not for Home Expert, right? This is for the homeowner and for you, right? We're just facilitating that match, right? We're just a matchmaker here, right? We want to remove ourselves from that whole process, the whole service, basically, right? We're just sitting in the background, making sure that this guy in Iowa can get a painter. This woman in Massachusetts can get a new roof, right? This family who just moved to San Diego can get a new HVAC unit because it's super hot down there, right? So figuring that out, and working those larger scale partners has proven to be very successful for us over here, to kind of answer that kind of supply demand issue.
So, Jason, let's talk. Let's switch. You talked about something that's really important. That's social proofing, and about people having positive reviews and how they go to sites like yours and then see how reviews come in for different people. It's such an important factor today in marketing, especially for those businesses. I know that if I went to Amazon to buy a widget, if I see 4 reviews with 5 stars on there, odds are those four came from people that work for that very company. However, people seem to give a lot more sincere review when it's a painter or something like that, where somebody's coming into your house to do, change a window, to do painting or whatever. But talk about how social proofing in the home services industry has really, at least to me, changed it dramatically as far as the impact in your marketing.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great question. I mean, I think social proofing is growing a lot more right now, and I think the reason why you see people are putting more weight in terms of services and providers versus products is because it's more relatable, right? You're dealing with a person, not just a toy, not just a widget, whatever it is you're buying on Amazon. And when it comes to these profiles, right, and reviews you're seeing, you're letting someone into your house, right? So having some recognizable presence, and let's go beyond just like profiles, right? Let's go beyond reviews. Just like if someone's gonna come to my house and I can if I Google them online and nothing pops up right then and there, that is somewhat of a red flag to me. Like, well, I can't even find this guy, right? And this goes for anything I do, right? If I'm going to interview a candidate and I Google his name and nothing comes up, he doesn't have a LinkedIn or a Facebook or a Twitter or whatever it is, right? Um, I'm like, well, is this even real, right? How can I trust this guy, right? And having just some sort of just basic like online presence in this day and age, it goes without saying, is important. Uh, Something that we're doing over here at Home Expert is that we want to highlight the pro. So it's not going to be like, yeah, Home Expert profile. It's going to be pros. It's going to be ABC company profile, small letters on Home Expert, right? Not Yelp, ABC painting, right? Home Advisor, ABC painting. It's going to be ABC painting on Home Expert, right? And so the point is over there, right, is to really display these home services providers in a light and in a way that they're going to be able to capture this consumer audience and gain this trust immediately without having this homeowner to think about like, well, is this their site? Is this someone else's site? Like, do I trust this review? Do I not? Like, we want to make it very simple and easy and painless for these people, right? And so I think that it is very, very important, and we're seeing a growth over there. And actually, it's kind of funny. I believe I read the study that on average, right, thing items on Amazon with 5-star reviews, or I think 4.5 or above, actually sell at a lower rate than reviews of 4.2 to 4.5. And that tells me that um, people actually, and this is somewhat counterintuitive, people actually value negative reviews more than just straight positive reviews because nothing's perfect, right? No product, no person, no technology is perfect, right? And so having some of that, ability to have that somewhat just mediocre or neutral comments on your page is actually beneficial to you. And so like a lot of feedback I get over here is like, well, I don't want any negative, comments over here. I'm like, I get it. I get what you were saying, but are you really going to believe any profile, any product you buy with 10 fives? No, you're not, right? But what I will believe is if this guy has, let's say, a 3-star or 2-star review, and then I saw on his profile that this owner of this ABC painting responded back to that homeowner saying, so sorry you had a bad experience. Please tell me what I could do to fix it. The guy, let's say the homeowner said, like, well, you made a mess, right? So ABC Painting responded like, I'm so sorry, I'll come out and fix it. Then original homeowner came back and said, ABC Painter came out and cleaned up the mess. Great job, happy again. Like that says a lot to me, right? That says like, wow, one, not only does this guy actually know what he's doing, two, he actually cares about his job and his work, right? And that's what's really kind of unique, right? And again, this whole overarching like products and services and reviews and that stuff, right? Having that like transparency is to like, this is a process of things, right? This actually happens. This is a real person. This is a live person here, right? These people actually care, right? And so having that social proof is becoming more and more important these days. I feel like, and we're going to start to see a bit more of a focus and emphasis on that from either the individual companies themselves, which is be great to see. Obviously, Yelp is already there. Just making a big push over there as well. Home Expert too, as well as a plethora of other home services or services type companies that are doing these profile directory type social proof pages.
Well, Jason, thank you again for talking about a lot of the best practices in marketing and lead generation in the home services industry. If you would tell people where they can get in touch with you, find out a little bit more about your company.
Yeah, yeah. You could just shoot me straight an email. It's Jason, Jason, .ashman, that's ASHMAN, at HomeExpert, HomeExpert.com. Happy to get back to you. Happy to get in touch. Happy to help. Also, if you just have any questions about anything in general, always happy to give some advice or listen or make an intro if I can.
Great. Thank you, Jason, for being on A Shark's Perspective.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So there was my conversation with Jason Ashman, a VP at HomeExpert.com. And let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from that conversation. First, a lot of the websites are changing with a lot of the major players. It shouldn't take a customer a large number of clicks just to find a repair service. It applies to every industry and every vertical. It all comes down to customer journey and the customer experience. Second, whether it's through HomeExpert.com or any other similar provider, consider taking advantage of using that type of service to generate high-quality leads and traffic, and at least make that even a small part of your marketing mix. If it shows to be a quality provider, then embrace the partnership. Third, social proofing and reviews are especially important, even so much more when you consider that in home services, you're basically inviting in a service provider and most often a complete stranger into your home. While it's not a foolproof testimonial, understanding the quality of reviews for selecting that service is essential. Got a question? Please feel free to find me on LinkedIn or send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this show regarding another one of the many components that makes up marketing today. It's time to go home and do some marketing. Have a wonderful day and join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.